take my hand. O Lord, take my hand. Without thee I may fall. Without thee I may fall. O Lord, pull me on. O Lord, pull me on. Without thee I may stray. Without thee I may stray. O Lord, draw me near. O Lord, draw me near. Thou art my all in all. Thou art my all in all. Without thee I may fall. O Lord, fill this heart. O Lord, fill this heart. O Lord, fill this heart. Thou art my all in all. Thou art my all in all. Without thee I may fall. Om Amen. So we're reading Rumi, humorous, insightful, enchanting Rumi. Swayam, do you have the book open? Swayam, are you there?
Yes, Brother Shankara.
Okay, we're as I reckon it, we're starting with the poem Gainful Employment.
Yes, Brother Shankara, that's what I have as well.
Would you like to read that for us?
Sure, my pleasure. Gainful employment. These just aren't words you're reading. If you churn them, you could have some good cream. If you kept working with my poems, you could open up a shop and sell the finest butter. If you fell in love with Rumi, you could give gainful employment to your family and have fun together, hawking my wonderful cheese. Gainful employment. These aren't just words you are reading. If you churn them, you could have some good cream. If you kept working with my poems, you could open up a shop and sell the finest butter. If you fell in love with Rumi, you could give gainful employment to your family and have fun together, hawking my wonderful cheese.
Buttercream cheese. I mean, at least from here, three of my very favorite things.
Yes, yes.
So it's just an absolutely enchanting poem. Anyone have anything to say about it? What is this? What does this stir up in you? What does it churn up in you?
I, I think one interpretation is that the more we get deeply into these poems and get the essence, and our spirituality wakes up, and we can share it. Once we have it, then we can certainly share it with others, is what I am getting.
And yes, share it with your first with your family, and then with the whole world. Have fun together, hawking my wonderful cheese. Yeah, I love Rumi's sense of humor. Anybody else have anything? I certainly agree with what you said, Swaya.
That's exactly what I thought, Brother Shankara. The finer it gets, spiritual uh, divineness will get finer and finer and finer, just like butter, cream and butter and cheese. And so that's exactly what I thought. What Swayam said was, she was right on the dot. Thank
Well,
you.
the thing about first you get cream, then you get butter, then you get cheese. This is a process of aging and ripening and
Exactly.
changing.
Yeah.
It's really quite a remarkable little progression. Cream, butter, cheese. I'm all for it. I'm all for
Then you can make some cheesecake.
it. Yes, I'm sure that they could. Well, that's something that that little shop of his that he's envisioning. And I just love the title of the poem, Gainful Employment. Yes, indeed, studying and working with Rumi's poems is gainful employment.
So when we were growing up in India, we
Hmm.
used to churn butter at home.
Uh-huh.
From, I think it was from buttermilk. So we would make yogurt and it was such a fun family activity. And we had this handheld churner.
Hmm.
So we would put it in a like a big pot and then we would all take turns churning and
Right,
then get the butter out.
right. Yes, it is quite a little process to make butter. When I was 9 years old, we lived in North Carolina, and my father always liked to do a little farming when he could. And so we were sharecropping some corn out at this old couple's place out in the country. And of course, my dad would go work in the fields, and sometimes he'd just leave me, particularly after lunch. He would leave me with the farm wife. She was just this wonderful older lady. And so I'd get left there after lunch, and she would sometimes be making butter, and and I can still remember the click a clack, click clack, click a clack, click clack, click a clack, click clack, as she churned that. Those people had light fixtures all over their house and one light bulb. They used one light bulb at a time. They would take it from fixture to fixture. It was really something. With the Tennessee Valley Authority had only recently put in electricity to all of those farms. And so they were still getting used to the fact that they could have more than one light bulb at a time. They were a charming old couple. So gainful employment. Anything else to say about this poem? Anyone?
We can't forget to churn though. We have to churn to get there.
That's it. That's it. Well, first he talks about if you churn these poems, you can get some good cream. Well, that's the first thing that happens is you churn and the cream rises to the surface, and so on and so forth. So it's definitely a process that he's talking about, and it's something that happens over time. Gainful employment for your family and have fun together hawking my wonderful cheese. Anything else before we go on to the next one? Heidi, do you have the book open? I think you can have some fun with this next one if you. It's called Nibble at Me.
Nibble at me. Sure. Nibble at me. Nibble at me. Don't gulp me down. How often is it you have a guest in your house, who can fix everything? I'll read it again.
Please.
Nibble at me. Nibble at me. Don't gulp me down. How often is it you have a guest in your house, who can fix everything?
Who has an idea what he means by fix everything?
We cannot find answers to all our questions. That's why I guess take a little bit at a time and churn.
Well, this one he says, nibble at me. Nibble at me. Don't gulp me down. And what he seems to be saying is that if you really do nibble at him, this is ingesting, this is assimilating. Eat me a little at a time, assimilate me. If you do, what I bring to you in these poems can fix everything.
And
Yeah, please.
and then the game is over.
Yes.
That's what I get from it. That, if you take Rumi as your teacher, and presuming he's an enlightened being, then his teachings, if you absorb them, and will lead to enlightenment. And if you just gulp him down, there you go, and you don't get to enjoy any of it first.
Yeah.
The process. That's.
I mean, I got out of it, don't gulp me down is like, just savor me,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit at a time, like that fine wine, just,
Yeah, if
Flavor
you're
it.
drinking a fine wine, you're not drinking it to get drunk.
right.
You're drinking it to get that wonderful soft glow.
Yep.
So but I mean, just once again, his sense of humor. How often is it that you have a guest in your house who can fix everything? And I think Cindy was right when she was pointing to the fact that what he says, what he means by fix everything, is, if you study this and assimilate it, not gulping it down like wolfing a meal, a little at a time, you really can bring enlightenment. Like his teacher, Sham.
Well, like Sri Ramakrishna could give people enlightenment by just a touch,
Mm-hmm.
and showed that he could do it. But that isn't what he came to do,
Mm-mm.
like with a touch, but for people to have that experience of making it their own, and
Yeah,
they're that way.
the fun.
Yeah, and have fun.
Anybody else got anything whatsoever to say about this year poem? Michaela, do you have the book yet? Bart, would you mute yourself because you're making some kind of noise that's a little disruptive? Thank you. Michaela, are you there?
I'm here.
I'm just
I'm
wondering.
actually not by the book, but I can go get it. I just got home from work, so.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I didn't want to put the onus on you. I just was inviting you to read this next poem if you had the
Yeah.
it to hand. So why don't you go get it? So maybe you can read another one for us, and I'll ask
Okay.
Liam. I'll ask Liam if he wants to read this one.
Sure. I'll go get it right now. Thank you.
Liam, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, you want to read this book that lives in us?
Absolutely. Sure. That lives in us. If you put your hands on this oar with me, they will never harm another, and they will come to find they hold everything you want. If you put your hands on this oar with me, they would no longer lift anything to your mouth that might wound your precious land, that sacred earth that is your body. If you put your soul against this oar with me, the power that made the universe will enter your
Sinew.
sinew, from a source not outside your limbs, but from a holy realm that lives in us. Exuberant is existence. Time is a husk. Time a husk. When the moment cracks open, ecstasy leaps out and devours space. Love goes mad with the blessings, like my words give. Why lay yourself on a torturer's rack of the past and future? The mind that tries to shape tomorrow beyond its capacities will find no rest. Be kind to yourself, dear, to our innocent follies. Forget any sounds or touch you knew that did not help you dance. You will come to see that all evolves us. If you put your heart against the earth with me, in serving every creature, our beloved will enter you from our sacred realm, and we will be so happy. That lives in us. If you put your hands on this oar with me, they will never harm another, and they will come to find they hold everything you want. If you put your hands on this oar with me, they would no longer lift anything to your mouth that might wound your precious land, that sacred earth that is your body. If you put your soul against this oar with me, the power that made the universe will enter your sinew from a source not outside your limbs, but from a holy realm that lives in us. Exuberant is existence, time a husk. When the moment cracks open, ecstasy leaps out and devours space. Love goes mad with the blessings, like my words give. Why lay yourself under torturer's rack of the past and future? The mind that tries to shape tomorrow beyond its capacities will find no rest. Be kind to yourself, dear, to our innocent follies. Forget any sounds or touch you knew that did not help you dance. You will come to see that all involves us. If you put your heart against the earth with me, in serving every creature, our beloved will enter you from our sacred realm, and we will be so happy.
Well, he promises that he can fix everything. And then he gives us the instructions. What an amazing summary of spiritual practice this is.
What is the or he is referring to?
Well, what does an oar do? Um, um,
Row the boat.
it moves the boat forward. Yes. If you put yourself against, if you take this oar in your hands and pull with me, you can envision two people in a boat. Huh? He's pulling on one oar, you're pulling on the other. If he just pulls on one oar, the boat just goes around in a circle. If you pull on the other oar, progress is made. That's how I hear it anyway. So the oar is what moves us forward, it's just a metaphor, seems to me, for what moves us forward. Why lay yourself on the torturer's rack of the past and future? And that is what we do. That is what our left mind does. It's constantly thinking about the past and the future. Past and the future. And he's saying that's a torturer's rack. It takes you out of the moment. And, he doesn't condemn that way of being. He just says the mind that tries to shape tomorrow beyond its capacities will find no rest. And then something we've discussed in this class or this reading group and in other settings is this self-forgiveness. Be kind to yourself, dear, to our innocent follies. Over and over, these saints say this in this book. Hafiz says it in another place. All our thoughts are just innocent steps on the path. Does anyone else see this as a little condensed spiritual instruction?
Yes. It's And I see links to other teachings from other people who teach spiritual stuff.
Yes.
But it sums it up, but beautifully. And I just love the language that he puts it in.
Yes.
Exuberant is existence.
Yes.
From a husk. When the moment cracks open, ecstasy leaps out and devours space. Love goes mad with the blessings, like my words give. I mean, that's pretty awesome stuff.
Yes. Well, it just, he just says time and space are nothing to existence. Nothing.
Yeah.
Time is a husk, and when it breaks open, when the moment time breaks open, ecstasy leaps out and devours space. So there's no space between us in that ecstatic state. The illusion of separation disappears. So I said earlier last week that Ladinsky creates a through line with each of these great saints. He starts off with Rumi making these promises, saying, how often do you have a guest in the house that can fix everything? And then he offers us the instructions that he says will fix everything. Forget any sounds or touch you knew that did not help you dance. You will come to see that all evolves us. Everything that he just says, everything that happens to us evolves us. And then he starts off with his hands on the oar. Now he says, if you put your heart against the earth with me, you put your heart against the earth with me in serving every creature. Our beloved will enter you from our sacred realm, our sacred realm, and we will be so happy. And notice he repeats that we will be, and we will be so happy.
I like that he says we, not you.
Yeah.
You will be so happy, as we will be so happy.
Well, what can be more happifying for a teacher than to bring someone to that happy state? It must be an ecstasy that is beyond expression. He does the best he can. So what are the instructions here?
We, Brother Shankara, it seems like the title that lives in us. He wants us to live in the moment, not to worry about the past and the future. It's like a mindfulness. Be mindful. You only have this second. That's all you have left. So, and everything is living in us. The title itself speaks it. That lives in us.
Yes.
Get closer.
That lives in us.
In us. Get closer to that. You will get closer to that if you live in that moment without worrying. The past and the future is unknown. So that's what I got it from that.
And
Sorry.
yes, please, Swayam.
I was going to say that he covers the yamas and niyamas in the first two paragraphs.
Yes, he does, doesn't he? The yamas and niyamas, for those of you who don't know, are instructions. There's something called Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. It is a workbook put together by the sage Patanjali for pursuing the path of contemplation, concentration, and meditation. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And there are eight segments of instruction. This is that he calls the limbs of yoga, 8 limbs of yoga. And the first two are called the yamas, the restraints. And the second are the niyamas, the observances. So here's what you restrain yourself from doing. And when you restrain yourself from doing that, here's what you replace that with. But here's what you do in place of what you've restrained yourself from. And Rumi starts with the same idea that Patanjali does. We must not harm others. So he says, if you put your hands on this oar with me, they will never harm another. And then he says, and they will come to find they hold everything you want. The interpretation from here about this not harming others, when we stop having an adversarial relationship, a selfish relationship with the world that allows us to harm others, we find abundance. Not because we're reaching for it, but because it was always there. St. Catherine of Siena, when we get to St. Catherine of Siena, she has a poem that is just about that particular concept. It's really quite remarkable. And then the second, if you put your hands on this oar with me, they would no longer lift anything to your mouth that might wound your precious land, that sacred earth that is your body. You won't ingest, and he doesn't mean just food and drink. You won't ingest anything that will harm you. Instead, you will ingest those things that will refresh and ennoble you. It's really, there's a if you put your soul against this oar with me, the power that made the universe will enter your sinew, which means muscle and ligaments. The power that made the universe will enter your sinew from a source not outside your limbs, but from a holy realm, and here's the title, that lives in us. Anybody else got anything to say about this? Please.
Brother Shankara, this is
Yes.
McKaylee.
Yes.
Hi, on page 66, where he says, if you put your heart against the earth with me, in serving every creature, our beloved will enter you from our sacred realm, and we will be so happy. So where he says, in serving every creature, I kind of took that two ways. I also saw in serving another is seeing the divine within that person, and then also service.
Mm-hmm. What does Ramana Maharshi say is the greatest service that we can offer to the universe, to the world, to our fellow human beings? It is to come to know who you truly are, that which lives in us, that divine presence that lives in us. So I think you're absolutely right, Michaela. It has to do with, a good poet will always be both literal and metaphorical in such an instruction. So serving every creature, we start with not harming anything. Then we move on to, once we have become more selfless, serving every creature, not like a duty, just spontaneously. And, we could study, I think we could literally spend a week of evenings studying just this poem. There's so much here.
So that would also be in serving every creature, then, in being a teacher too.
Well, being a teacher, that's a very strange thing. Yes, but being a teacher is, Rumi is a teacher. He comes from that place. It's something that really lives in them. And that's why he says, I can offer this to you like a guest in your house who can fix everything. Yes, being a teacher is a very strange business. Sri Ramakrishna, for example, didn't like to be thought of that way. Though he was just kind of, but he says, I don't do this. I don't do this. He says, I act as Mother makes me act. By that he meant the Divine Mother. I speak as she makes me speak. And my teacher, Swami Prabhavananda, one day, he had been on the podium the Sunday morning before, and the talk was about Holy Mother. On the following Monday, when he was walking with a group of his devotees, which he did every day, a devotee who was just effusive and ebullient by nature came rushing up and said, "Oh, Swami, you spoke so beautifully yesterday about Mother, so beautifully you spoke." And she went on for 2 or 3 sentences. And before he just stopped walking, and he tapped down his cane and he said, "Who spoke?" And she said, And he tapped down his cane again and said, "Who spoke?" And then third time he just roared it, "Who spoke?" And finally she said, "Oh, Mother, Swami, Mother." That's right. He tapped down his cane again and started walking. So it's the divine presence acting through us. He talks about that here. After he talks about, ecstasy leaps out and love goes mad with the blessing. like my words give. I'm clicking along till I find. You will come to see that all evolves us. And the all is that those actions of the divine presence. And then this incredible close. If you put your heart against the earth with me, in serving every creature, our beloved will enter you from our sacred realm, which he said before is within us, within us. And as Cindy pointed out, he's not saying your sacred realm, he's talking about our sacred realm, that which is not separate. He says, our beloved will enter you from our sacred realm that is within us, and we will be so happy. And isn't that what we want? We want to be happy. We want to be free. So you're right, Michele. It is very definitely about being a teacher. But this being a teacher is a very tricky business. Who's doing what? And the real teachers, like Rumi, will tell you. I dance. I dance because that which is within me causes me to dance. I sing because that which is within me causes me to sing. We evolve because that which is within us wants us to evolve. And so that too is a teacher, that evolving. Anybody else? Okay. So Michele, do you have the book now?
Yes, I have the book.
Okay. Would you like to read the poem The Way Wings Should?
Of course. The way wings should. What will our children do in the morning? Will they wake with their hearts wanting to play the way wings should? Will they have dreamed the needed flights and gathered the strength from the planets that all men and women need to balance the wonderful charms of the earth, so that her power and beauty does not make us forget our own? I know all about the ways of the heart, how it wants to be alive. Love so needs to love that it will endure almost anything, even abuse, just to flicker for a moment. But the sky's mouth is kind. Its song will never hurt you, for I sing those words. What will our children do in the morning if they do not see us fly?
Would you like to read it again, please?
the way wings should. What will our children do in the morning? What will they wake with their hearts wanting to play the way wings should? Will they have dreamed the needed flights and gathered the strength from the planets that all men and women need to balance the wonderful charms of the earth, so that her power and beauty does not make us forget our own? I know all about the ways of the heart, how it wants to be alive. Love so needs to love that it will endure almost anything, even abuse, just to flicker for a moment. But the sky's mouth is kind. Its song will never hurt you, for I sing those words. What will our children do in the morning if they do not see us fly?
So we go from the general in the last poem, general instructions on spiritual practice, to some very practical instructions for parents. So beautifully put. What will our children do in the morning if they do not see us fly? They'll learn to be grounded like us. They'll learn to be earthbound. Any of you who want to read a wonderful meditation on the way children might ideally be raised, you might want to read a book titled Island, just the word island. It's by Aldous Huxley. And he says in his own metaphors and ways that we shouldn't start by teaching children about stuff. We should start by teaching children about their imagination and the power of cooperation. It's beautiful. And that's exactly what Rumi's talking about here, of course. Flight, letting the mind and the heart fly.
And who was the author of The Island again? Of Island?
Aldous Huxley. And it's not the island, it's just island.
Island, right.
Just island. And it's Aldous, Aldous, Aldous Huxley, Huxley.
Thank you.
And it should be the instruction book for educators, for parents and educators. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. He's not a terrifically good writer, in terms of style and grace of writing. He's not terrific in that sense. He's not a Charles Dickens. But he sure does. He's, as the Monty Pythons put it, in their Philosopher's Drinking Song. Aldous Huxley's a lovely little thinker. Aldous Huxley was a disciple of Swami Prabhupada. So, anybody else got anything to say about this remarkable poem?
I have a question here,
Yes,
Swami.
yeah.
Oh, where it says on the second paragraph, will they have dreamed the needed flights and gathered the strength from the planets that all men and women need to balance the wonderful charms of the earth? So, dream the needed flights is talking about the wings, I would say, from the previous paragraph. But where it says the strength from the planets that all men and women need to balance the wonderful charms of the earth, I'm taking that as that children, because they're developing, they need to balance, like ground themselves, like the chakras, going barefoot in the earth, learning the ways of this plane.
Yes, and in Rumi's time, astrology was very much a science. Each of the planets, according to astrology, has something to impart to us. But most of us, being hypnotized by, as he puts it, the charms of the earth, the charms of what we see immediately around us and our sensory involvement with everything around us, don't have any sensitivity to these other influences. So I think that's what he means by the planets. They have much to give us, much that will make us. And these flights, I think that has to do, this wings and flights, all has to do with our imagination. All has to do with, and how many of us as children had what we were told was an imaginary friend? We had a friend or friends that were very real to us. But our parents would say to us, "Oh, no, dear, that's just your imagination." Like that's a bad thing. So no, we need we need to.
You guys didn't really see imaginary friends. If you did, you didn't tell me.
I'm sorry,
You had
Catherine.
too many other things happening.
I didn't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know I unmuted myself. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, please. We want to hear what you have to say. What did you say?
Oh, I was just saying I don't remember if my children had imaginary friends or not, but I remember that they had stuffed animals that they talked with, and I let them do that.
Well,
So.
yes, because they sense the life in everything. I mean,
That is true.
Please go ahead.
Oh, I was just agreeing with you. I'm sorry.
Not to be sorry. If
Okay.
any of you have ever read Winnie the Pooh, I mean, these stuffed animals are real to Christopher Robin, and they live in the 100-acre wood, and they interact with one another, and bless A.A. Milne for not just encouraging that, but helping Christopher embroider it and make it a reality. And so many lessons, so many beautiful lessons are in that book about being dear to one another and about not judging others.
What an endearing set of characters in Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, yes,
This too. And I remember, Brother Shankara, when we used to have the classes in person, one time you had mentioned this quote from Einstein. If you want your children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. If
yeah,
you want them to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales.
that's exactly right. And that is a real quote from Einstein. He really did say that. There are a lot of quotes apparently that are attributed to Einstein that he didn't say, but he did say that. the imagination, the capacity for fantasy. What will our children do in the morning if they do not see us fly? Anything else about this remarkable poem? We've got just 3 minutes left.
And I also, Brother Shankara,
Yes, please, dear.
I also think that his childhood also, at 8 years of age, Rumi had to migrate to, he actually flee to Turkey. And
Yeah.
I'm sure as a child, he had experienced so many things in that fleeing and settling in a different country from Afghanistan and relocating.
Yes, I'm sure.
I see some of that too in this poem, the way Wing should.
It's interesting that when you are raised in a chaotic environment,
Exactly.
oftentimes you are more free to be yourself because your parents are so preoccupied with their concerns.
Exactly.
That was true of me.
That was true for him, yes. And I do see the imagination. I see that every time my grandchildren come, they name their stuffed animals Sugar and Plum. And then they tell me, don't talk loud, they're sleeping now. Just whisper, I hear this every week, almost 2 times a week. They come here.
Yes, because they
Wonderful.
it isn't, it's precious what they're doing.
Precious, yes. I 100% agree. I love innocence. Yes.
Let them fly. So anything else from anyone?
Well, I just wanted to say that first stanza there. Will they wake with their hearts wanting to play the way wings should? And I just imagined like wings, wanting to play, the flight, the fantasy, I don't know, the wonder of it all, perhaps,
That's exactly the right words, Heidi. The wonder of it all.
the way wings should, I never thought of that before I read that. The way wings should, the wings should play. They should be fanciful, Anyway, that part just struck me there.
Well, we used to have, when I lived in Glendale with my late wife, there was on our front porch a hanging bird bath. But Marjorie never put any water in it because every year a pair of doves would come and make their nest there in that. And doves are lazy nest makers. They just throw a few things in there. They don't build a nest. They find some place like that empty bird bath, and just throw a few things in there, and that's where they raise their chicks. But we were able to stand in our French doors that went out onto that front porch, and whether they saw us or not, they didn't pay us any mind. They would raise their chicks there. And it was really fun to watch them, teach them to fly, teach them to fly. And when they woke up in the morning, the parents would stretch out their wings and flop, 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 flop. Oh, it was beautiful. So, Heidi, I think you really hit on it. The wonder of it all is contained in Rumi's words there. So next week we'll start with Rumi Pay Homage. Lord, here's a prayer, here's a song of simple thanksgiving. Here is a hymn of grateful praise. We are thankful for all that you give us and for your forgiveness of our erring ways. Lord, here is a song of simple thanksgiving. Here is a hymn of grateful praise. We are thankful for all that you give us and for your forgiveness of our erring ways. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to every beloved being everywhere. May you go in Mother's loving and protective embrace. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be cheerful. May you have peace of mind.
May you as well.
Thank you, dear. So, until next week, we'll start with this wonderful, again, one of the poems that has Rumi's sense of humor in it, Rumi Pay Homage. But it's a very, the twist of the humor has a twist in it, not a dark twist, just like a spring, like a pogo stick. Anything else from anyone before we say goodnight?
Just go outside and look under the light, everybody, at the wonder of the snow flurries is what I would say.
That's one of the things I'm going to do right away is go watch it snow. As I said, as a California kid, when I moved here, believe it or not, the first year I moved here, it snowed on Christmas.
That must have been what year was that? Let's see.
2010.
2010, okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And it was just amazing. Just amazing. And I had brought with me 2 old dogs. And one of them was a mix of a Saint Bernard and Chow. His full name was Berlioz Saint Chow, and we just called him Bear. He loved the snow, and when he saw that it had snowed that night, he was in ecstasy. And I was happy too. The wonder of it all.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night, good night, good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Night,
Good night, all.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Liam. Good night, Michele. Good night,
Good
Catherine.
night.
Good night,
Good
Mark.
night.
Good night, all. Good night, Haima. Until next week, or until tomorrow if you're with us for the mother class.